We were lost. There was no other word for it. For days, maybe even weeks, the small boat had been drifting aimlessly across the ocean, its fragile wooden hull creaking beneath us with every gust of wind. The vastness of the sea was overwhelming, the endless blue stretching out in every direction, mocking us with its silence. We had no map, no direction, no compass, just a hope that somewhere, beyond the horizon, there was a place we could call home. A place where we could be safe, a place where we could finally breathe freely. The child, my only companion on this endless journey, had grown weak. Their once bright eyes had become dull, their small body thin from hunger and the relentless rays of the sun. I tried to comfort them, but it was hard to find the strength myself. I didn't have the luxury of weakness. I had to be the strong one, the protector, even though every fibre of my being screamed for rest. We had been running for so long, leaving behind everything we knew in search of a better life, searching for a place where we could finally feel free. But as the days turned into weeks, then months, the idea of safety seemed increasingly distant. Every wave felt like a reminder of how small we were in the face of the world's vastness. The ocean, beautiful in its own way, had become a prison. A cold, silent prison that stretched on endlessly. The water supply was dwindling, and with each passing day, it became harder to ignore the gnawing hunger in our stomachs. There was a moment when I thought we might not make it, when I thought the sea might claim us as it had claimed so many others before us. But there was no turning back. We couldn't afford to stop now. We had no choice but to keep moving forward, driven by the hope that somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, there was a chance for us to rebuild, to find peace. One evening, as the sun began to set and bathed the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, I saw it just on the edge of the horizon, a shadow. At first, I wasn't sure if my eyes were playing tricks on me, but then I saw it more clearly. It was a shape, a faint outline against the glowing sky. Land. My heart leapt in my chest. Could it be? Could this be the land we had been searching for all this time? Or was it just another cruel illusion, another mirage that would vanish as we approached? The child stood beside me, their eyes following mine. What is it? They asked softly, their voice barely audible against the gentle lapping of the waves. Land, I whispered, my voice trembling with disbelief. I think it's land. For a moment, everything seemed to stop, the wind, the waves, the pain in my muscles. It felt like time itself had suspended in that moment. I grabbed the oars with renewed strength, my body aching as I began to row, the sound of the oars cutting through the water ringing in my ears. Every stroke was a prayer, a plea for the land to be real, for us to make it there. I rowed harder, faster, as the shape on the horizon grew larger with each passing moment. The child sat silently beside me, their eyes wide with hope. The land grew closer, and with it, a sense of caution began to settle in. What would we find there? What kind of place awaited us? The fear of danger, of more uncertainty, gnawed at me, but it was a risk I had to take. The thought of finding safety, of finding a place where we could finally rest, was too great to ignore. As the boat finally scraped against the soft sand, I hesitated. The shore was quiet, almost unnervingly so. There were no sounds, no calls of animals, no voices of people. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for us to make our move. My heart pounded in my chest as I stepped onto the beach. The sand was warm beneath my feet, but there was something in the air and emptiness that made my skin crawl. We were not alone. I saw a trail of footprints, fresh and human. Someone had been here recently. My first instinct was to turn back, to return to the safety of the open sea, where at least the danger was unknown. But then I saw something ahead, trees, a cluster of them, casting long shadows in the fading light. And beyond them, I thought I saw the outline of something else, a building, a hut. "We need to keep moving," I said to the child, my voice firm despite the unease that churned in my stomach. They nodded, not asking questions, as they always did, and we began to follow the trail. We walked for what felt like hours, deeper into the island, the dense forest growing thicker around us. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves in the breeze. Each step seemed heavier than the last, the uncertainty of what lay ahead pressing down on me like a weight I could hardly bear. But we could not go back, not now. And then, suddenly, the trees parted, and we found ourselves in a clearing. In the center of it stood a group of people. They were tall and imposing, their bodies marked with intricate tattoos, their skin darkened by the sun. They wore simple clothes made from woven fibers, and their eyes were steady, intense, but not unkind. They studied us without fear, without suspicion, but there was no warmth in their gaze either. It was as if they were trying to decipher us, to understand what we were doing here. I froze, unsure of how to proceed. The child clung to my side, their hand gripping mine with a silent plea for reassurance. These people were different from any we had encountered before. There was no fear, but there was no friendliness either. They were neither welcoming nor hostile. They simply watched us, observing, waiting for us to make the first move. One of them, an older man with a weathered face, stepped forward. His eyes were sharp, but there was no malice in them. He spoke to us in a language I did not understand. His words were foreign, but his tone was calm, measured. I could not comprehend the meaning of his speech, but I knew he was not angry. He was simply curious. I took a deep breath, then stepped forward, holding out my hands in a gesture of peace. "We're lost," I said, my voice quivering slightly. "We don't mean any harm. We just need help." The man studied me for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. Then, slowly, he nodded. Without a word, he turned and beckoned for us to follow him. The others parted to make way for us, their eyes still following our every move. We had no choice but to follow. The village was small but peaceful. The huts were simple, crafted from the resources of the island. People moved about in quiet harmony, tending to their work. There was no rush, no noise, just the steady rhythm of life unfolding. The villagers moved with purpose, but without haste, as though they were part of something larger, something greater than themselves. It was a life I had never known. They taught us many things in the days that followed: how to fish, how to gather food from the trees, how to build shelters from the palm leaves. It was a way of life that felt in tune with nature, a balance between the land and the people who lived on it. There was a quiet strength in their ways. They lived not for survival alone, but for a deeper connection to the earth and each other. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of peace. These people weren't strangers, they were just like us. They had suffered, they had endured, but they had found something that eluded me for so long. A sense of community, a sense of belonging. I looked at the child, who was now laughing with the other children, their eyes bright and full of life. We had found a place of safety, yes, but more than that, we had found something we had never known before: home. The days stretched on, and as the weeks turned into months, I came to realize that survival was not just about food and shelter. It was about belonging. It was about community. It was about living, not just existing. The villagers didn't just survive, they thrived. They had something we had lost in our frantic search for safety: connection. A sense of peace that comes only when you are part of something larger than yourself. One evening, as I sat with the villagers by the fire, watching the stars appear one by one in the clear night sky, I understood. True freedom was not about escaping your past. It was not about running. It was about finding a place where you could stand tall, where you could be yourself without fear, without regret. It was about embracing the present, knowing that you are not alone. As I held the child in my arms that night, I knew that we had found something we had never expected: not just survival, but life, a place where we could truly live.